Yeah, welcome to all of you. Good morning from wherever you are. Good morning. Thanks for joining. So, we are going to have a very special discussion today, and I'm hoping I'm not going to take your time. It's a wonderful Saturday. We will talk about the relationship between the Igbo and Yoruba, juxtaposing the Igbo-Yoruba relationship. You know, a lot of Igbo have been saying the Yoruba people are not to be trusted. They do not like Igbo. They will cite when the Oba Akiodu of Lagos threatened the Igbo with ensuring they would be drowned in the lagoon if they didn't vote a particular candidate of Yoruba preference. We've also heard of the threats by MC Oluomo. When it's election period, those kind of threats come, and the Igbo do not feel a sense of brotherhood from their Yoruba counterparts. They have their points, but those points are, to me, politically motivated points. They are politically motivated points, but they can't be pushed aside, even though they are politically motivated points. The points are reasonable, because why will you have a society like Nigeria that have diverse ethnic groups, and one ethnic group or one or two individuals from an ethnic group will say the individuals from the other ethnic group should not vote for this or not vote for that? They will feel attacked. They will feel like you are not extending the hands of brotherhood or brotherliness to them. So it has led the Igbo calling the Yoruba Yariba. I'm not interested in that word because it's derogatory. I do not know what it means, and I don't think I want to know. I already know it's a derogatory word, but it's not good for unity. So let's talk about the Igbo Yoruba relationship and see if there is actually any level of hate from one people to the other. If it is the Igbo that hates Yoruba, or if it's the Yoruba that hates Igbo, or if there are any traces of hate whatsoever. So we are going to talk about it. But to set the pace for the conversation, it is important to know that there is no society that is free of conflict. Conflict is as old as man, and conflict is not necessarily a bad thing. That's why conflict experts will talk about positive and negative conflicts. There are conflicts that lead to development, that leads to growth. And then there is also the aspect of even a negative conflict that will ultimately result in development. There are people who will see conflict as not just conflict, war, because war is negative conflict. We see war as a means to peace, that people go to war because they seek peace. So when we go to war and the other group wins over the other group, there will be peace. Also, when there is a war, there is destruction of properties, and then at the end of that war, there will now be reconstruction. So those old buildings, those old properties will be replaced by newer ones. So as much as war is a bad thing, it has led to development. Post-conflict resolution involves rehabilitation. It involves reconstruction. It involves reconciliation. It can build better relationship. It depends on how it is managed. So conflict is not totally a bad thing. Conflict is just incompatibility, disagreement. But how you went about handling your disagreement will determine what kind of conflict that conflict could be said to be. The way you manage your disagreement can go left, it can go right. But we always want to hope that conflicts are managed so that they will come out positive, that will lead to better friendship, that will lead to development, that will lead to growth, that will lead to understanding. This said, even down to very little groupings, down to families, there are conflicts. You get, for example, my family, my immediate family can have disagreement. Myself and my siblings can have disagreement. Myself and my parents, my siblings and my parents, we can have disagreement. That's conflict. But we can resolve those disagreements. When we resolve those disagreements, we know ourselves better, we understand ourselves better, and then it will lead to the betterment of our family. But if that disagreement was unable to be resolved and then it escalated into sometimes going physical, becoming malicious, fighting, that is negative conflict. So the conflict that has been in Nigeria between the Igbo and the federal government has been that of a negative conflict because it culminated in a war, in a civil war. And since that civil war, the conflict has moved to the mind. An average Igbo person doesn't see Nigeria as a place they will want to identify with. That's why they talk about Biafra. They keep talking about Biafra. Good morning, welcome. But the conversation today will not be about Biafra or about secession. It's about the Yoruba-Igbo relation. Because a lot of Igbo have been accusing the Yoruba as not being brothers enough. It's interesting to note that the Yoruba have been that ethnic group that have been by the side of the Igbo the most, far beyond any other ethnic group. I'm going to state facts that are verifiable facts. The way the Yoruba have stood by the Igbo, the way the Yoruba have supported the Igbo, there is no other ethnic group, not even the ethnic groups that share some level of origin or culture with the Igbo. Like, I mean, Akwa Ibom, Cross River. They have similarities of culture with Igbo. Some history books will say either some people, some parts of Akwa Ibom originated from Igbo, or some parts of Igbo originated from Akwa Ibom. They have boundaries, they have similar cultures, a whole lot of similarities. To some extent, there are societies in Cross River, there are societies in Akwa Ibom that speak some level of Igbo as their dialect. Like where I come from, there is Ibom, Arochukwu, there is Obinkita. Those are places that have settlements of Efik and Ibibio, and they live as indigenes of Arochukwu, speaking Efik, speaking Ibibio. But in all these things, I am saying that no ethnic group have gotten the back of the Igbo more than the Yoruba, historically or even in our contemporary societies. And I'll give a few examples. I wouldn't want to keep us for long. Let's look at what has been trending since November, late November down till December, the Nnamdi Kanu issue. If you looked at the outcome of the court, you would notice that more of the non-Igbo that have been speaking in support of Nnamdi Kanu are Yoruba people. Femi Falana, for one, is a very big voice in Nigeria. He has a very big platform. He has spoken in support of Nnamdi Kanu, and not actually in support, but he has given his voice by saying Nnamdi Kanu should be released. They should seek political solution. That's Femi Falana, one of the biggest lawyers we have in the country. We know the one of Omoyele Sowore. Sowore has always been a supporter of Nnamdi Kanu. There was a time he went to court in solidarity and he was assaulted by police. He wore the Igbo attire, and the police later released him, and then he was seen with young Igbos dancing to Ogene in support of Nnamdi Kanu. If there is anything he's doing that to gain from, I don't know, but he has been a supporter of Nnamdi Kanu. Recently, he led a protest for the unconditional release of Nnamdi Kanu. I do not think Sowore is so jobless or idle enough that he would start leading protest. In that protest, guns were fired. We saw how he was running and people started laughing, But the question would be, what if a bullet got him and one thing he passed? It would be that he passed supporting the Igbo. Days later, he was arrested for organizing a protest for the release of Nnamdi Kanu. If that's not a Yoruba support, I wonder what that will be called. We know Omoyele Sowore and his influence in the media. He is the one that owns the Sahara Reporters. He has reported the incarceration of or detention of Nnamdi Kanu. He has lent his voice. His voice is a very big voice in Nigerian politics. There is also Dele Farotimi, who has spoken. He has not just spoken in support of Nnamdi Kanu. He spoke in the request for his release. He has always spoken for the Igbo. I remember when the air peace saga about air hostess putting on Ishiagu came out, and he delivered to me, spoke about it. He had always spoken about. He even writes sometimes in Igbo. He is from Yoruba and he is a very influential person. If you looked at the dispensation of Olusegun Obasanjo, the kind of appointments he gave the Igbo, there is no other president that have given Igbo the kind of political relevance. Obasanjo is a Yoruba person. You know, a lot of prominent Igbo leaders today wouldn't have been known if not for Obasanjo. There are so many, from this Charles Soludo, who was the governor of Central Bank, to Kingsley Moghalu, Dora Akunyili, Diezani, the one that is at the World Bank, Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala, the other one they called Madam Due Process, Obi Ezekwesili. Obi Ezekwesili was even made a Minister of Solid Minerals. She has been made a Minister of Education. He even gave Chief of Army Staff or Chief of Defense Staff to Igbo. A lot of Igbo got prominence during Obasanjo. Like I said, there is no other president that have given the Igbo such relevance Obasanjo gave the Igbo. We even had Senate presidents. Igbo had Senate presidents during Obasanjo. That's Yoruba supporting Igbo. We also know of the one that Igbo people do not like. Joe Igbokwe. Obinna, good morning. How you doing? Joe Igbokwe, everything he has today would be credited to the goodness of the Yoruba. He has an appointment in the government in Lagos as an Igbo man. There have been occasions the Igbo contested for governor in Lagos. In Lagos, they have given political appointments to Igbo a lot. Some of these appointments, some of these things are not in the public spaces, but the Igbo knows, we know. So why do you keep saying Yoruba? How else will someone show that they love you? How else? Your brothers in Cross River or Akwa Ibom, I'm not putting anybody on the spot. Would you as an Igbo man go to Cross River or Akwa Ibom and be given political positions in their government. I don't know if it has happened before, but if it has, you can say it in the comment. Or on the reverse, is it possible that a Yoruba person will get a political appointment in an Igbo state? Has it happened before? Good morning, my brother Timmy. Has it happened that you could see how outspoken Joe Igbokwe is and how influential he is? Has it happened that a Yoruba person was that influential in an Igbo state? Has it happened? So when we say these things, we should be able to say them the way they are. Like I said, there is no ethnic group that have been as supportive to the Igbo as the Yoruba. Okay, I have moved from contemporary now to history. When you look at the history of Nigeria, it will all be about Yoruba supporting the Igbo. You can check the facts so that we are sure I am not here saying rubbish. Welcome, Austin. You know, a lot of people would know that this man, Wole Soyinka, was locked up in prison for almost 2 years, for 2 calendar years, 22 months. He was locked up in prison. But a lot of people might not have an idea why our Wole Soyinka, Nobel laureate, a lot of people might not have an idea why he was locked up in prison for 2 years. It was because of his support for Igbo. Soyinka sympathized with the Biafran struggle. He was secretly supporting Biafra, supporting Ojukwu, and in his support, he also reserved a space to advise Ojukwu to not continue with the war, that the Igbos are dying, that it is clear that Biafra will not be able to defeat the Nigerian contingent. Ojukwu is he was hard in hearing, so he didn't take it. But then Wole Soyinka kept supporting Biafra to the knowledge of the federal government, and he was picked up and locked up for 2 years, 2 calendar years. So it was just 2 months short of 2 years. That was Wole Soyinka, one of the most prominent voices in Yoruba, getting locked up for supporting Igbo. Tell me how else will the Yoruba show their love and support for the Igbo? It doesn't stop there. There is Victor Ade Banjo. During the first coup, the one that was tagged the Igbo coup, it was basically staged by officers from Igbo. Most of the officers were from Igbo, and the casualties were mostly Hausa Fulani and then Yoruba. So people thought it was an Igbo coup. But that coup that was tagged an Igbo coup had a Yoruba officer, Victor Adebanjo. That was assuming it was an Igbo coup. Why would not want to see it as an Igbo coup? Whoever calls it an Igbo coup have their reason, but it was mostly Igbo officers, and Victor Adebanjo was amongst them, a Yoruba person. That was a Yoruba person supporting the Igbo cause, so to say. And then that coup led to a counter coup, Aguironsi was killed, and then it all culminated at the Civil War. Victor Adebanjo again fought in the Biafran army. A Yoruba person fought against Nigeria for the actualization of Biafra. He was not the only Yoruba person who fought, but he was the most prominent. If you went back to your history, you would see a list of Yoruba people, soldiers, who enlisted as Biafran soldiers to fight against the federal government to allow the Igbo to have their Biafra Republic. What else do you want the Yoruba to do for you to know that they love you? Victor Adebanjo couldn't have if he didn't want to. He could have as well enlisted in the Nigerian army, but he chose to fight for Biafra. And guess what? Victor Adebanjo's story is very interesting. He was made the leader of the troop that will proceed to Lagos, to conquer Lagos, to conquer the capital of the Yoruba nation. It was a Yoruba man that was to lead the troop into Lagos, the Biafran troop. Are you getting what I'm saying? So it was a Yoruba man that was going to fight his own people for the actualization of the Igbo dream. What else do you want the Yoruba to do for you to be sure that they are your brothers? It didn't stop there. When Victor proceeded up until Benin City, he paused and reported to Ojukwu and said, Oga, this thing wey we dey see like this, e no go work. Let us rather call for peace. We will not be able to conquer these people. I am in Benin City. There are no people that are cooperating with us. They are not cooperating with us like the people wey we dey for their town. They dey tell us say make we comot. Apart from that, we do not have enough tools to continue. We cannot proceed to Lagos with just these few tools we have. We will be run over. Apart from us, the entire Biafran army does not have what it takes to continue fighting. Please, for the sake of not his own people, because he is Yoruba, for the sake of your people, your Igbo people, let us call for peace. Else, they are going to wipe the entire Igbo land. That was just what Victor Adebanjo, a Yoruba soldier fighting in the Biafran army, suggested to Odumegu Ojukwu, the Biafra leader. Ojukwu provoke. Why will you say that? We must fight to the end. It wasn't just Victor's idea. There is also Captain Ifajuna. Ifajuna bought the idea of Victor Adebanjo rather. There was also an Edo person fighting for Biafra. There was also a Kogi officer, Kogi state, fighting in the Biafran army. Those people came together with Captain Ifajuna to suggest to Ojukwu to call for the end of the war and resort to peace so that Igbo will stop dying, especially women and children. The Nigerian government had a strategy that targeted women and children. They were starving, they were dying, they were hungry, they were sick, kwashiorkor and the rest. So these people said, Oga Ojukwu, we don't even have what it takes to continue fighting. Ojukwu said no. So what they thought was that's even an accusation that they didn't concede to. So they wanted to topple Ojukwu so they could call for peace to save lives. Ojukwu saw it as sabotage and then tried them. The first trial, the judge said these people didn't do enough to be considered treasonable. Whatever it is that has been the accusation, they are saying you should seek peace, that people are dying. The war that you went into, the aim was to protect the lives of the Igbo, but rather the same life that you said you were protecting are being taken by the minute. Let's end it and protect the life. So the judge said it's not treason. It's not a treasonable offense. It's not a treasonable felony. They are doing that in the interest of Igbo. Yoruba person, no. Ojukwu wasn't comfortable with that judgment. He took them to another judgment, apparently influenced that judgment, and they were sentenced, 4 of them, Ifajuna, Victor Adebanjo, the Kogi person, and one other. I have forgotten their names. And then they were executed. Yoruba, that means a Yoruba person was fighting in your army, trying to make sure you get Biafra, and then he saw that what you have cannot match what the Nigerian army has, and he advised you to seek peace and end the war so that your people will stop dying. And rather than take the advice, you killed him. How else do you want the Yoruba to prove to you that they love you, Igbo? Kalavenza, good morning. But that's Igbo taking the life of Yoruba for telling you that your people are dying. Have you heard in the history of Nigeria that the Yoruba are calling Igbo out for taking the life of their brother who was fighting for you? Have you heard it? Imagine if it was a Yoruba person or a Yoruba general or whatever that did that to an Igbo person, that one would have been a history that would be playing every minute. But the Yoruba don't move on. They don't even see him as anything. Now, 2 days after Victor Adebanjo was executed by Ojukwu, just 2 days after, the Nigerian army captured Enugu, that is the capital of the Biafran Republic. Just 2 days after Victor Onabanjo was executed. I don't know if you get the point I am raising. It has not stopped there. There is also Adekunle Fajuyi. I think Adekunle Fajuyi was the premier of the West, if I'm not mistaken. During the counter coup, the Kaduna Nzogu led the coup. The coup removed the civilian government, and it was considered the Igbo coup. So the Hausa military officers staged a counter coup, and Gowon emerged as head of state. So, but Kaduna Nzogu's coup got Agui Ironsi to emerge as head of state. Then Agui Ironsi unified the country. So this devolutionized Nigeria returned to regional government that the Igbo are clamoring for. It was an Igbo person that moved Nigeria from regional government to this centralized federalism that we have today. It was the same Igbo that did that to Nigeria. What that means, Nigeria was practicing regional government. Every region, they do in thing, gradually they go. It was an Igbo person that said the federal government has become too weak because everybody was concentrating in their region. So let's centralize the country. It was an Igbo person, Agui Ironsi. So on the counter coup, Agui Ironsi was enlisted among those that would be executed by the coup plotters. At the time, Agui Ironsi was on a state visit to Adekunle Fajuyi in Ibadan. And then the coup plotter struck. Knowing where Agui Ironsi was, they stormed the place to take Agui Ironsi. And Adekunle Fajuyi said he cannot let them touch Agui Ironsi. That's a Yoruba man protecting an Igbo person. These are not commoners. These were leaders. So if it be like say maybe now one person, there is nobody that is not worth it, but you understand what I'm saying. It's just like today, you talk about wanting to take out a very prominent, maybe a senator, wanting to take out even a Senate president. Like they have Akpabio today. Someone wants to take out Akpabio. You know what that means for the Ibibio people. That was how big these names were. Adekunle Fajuyi. He refused. He opposed the coup plotters. He said he cannot let Agui Ironsi be taken down, not under his watch, that Agui Ironsi is his guest and he's going to ensure his safety. even if it will cost his life. They said, "Did you know what you're saying?" He said, "Yes. Before you take Aguiransi, you will have to take me first." They appealed to him, "Oga, this thing no concern you. Make way. Let us take the person we came here for. He's in your house. Let's take him and go. Then you can continue your business." He said, "Over his dead body." Now, Adekunle Fajuyi was taken down so as to take Aguiransi. That was another Yoruba person who gave his life for an Igbo person. Adekunle Fajuyi died, or rather, he was killed because he refused to allow the coup plotters to take Aguiransi. Have you heard of the Yoruba people making noise that their brother was killed because of an Igbo man? Have you heard it? So how do you want the Yoruba to show you that they are your brothers? Because one nuisance will come out, one non-entity will come out and say one thing, and illiterate will follow and say the same thing, and then you will conclude in your minds that Yoruba don't love you. Or is it because Justice Omotosho sentenced Nnamdi Kanu to life imprisonment? Was it Justice Omotosho's making? But you could remember when the naval officer was confronted by Nyesom Wike, and he said, "I am working on orders. I'm working on orders." That was a judge doing his job. It had nothing to do. If the person in question were to be Hausa or Yoruba or Efik or whatever ethnic group, it wouldn't have affected the judgment. It will still be the same judgment. To those of you that are saying Omotosho, a Yoruba man, sentence Igbo man, that's a myopic thinking. It could have been an Igbo judge. It could have been a judge from anywhere. So stop all these Yoruba don't like me. Go and check inter-ethnic marriages. A lot between Igbo and Yoruba. In fact, Victor Adebanjo's mom was an Igbo woman. You see. But there is no society that have multiplicity of ethnic groupings that will not have this coloration of favoritism and all whatnot. There is none. Even in the Igbo society, among the Igbo, there is this. Now, among the Igbo, it will be tribe. There is tribalism in Igbo land now. Is it a lie? So how can you, let's imagine that other people don't love you. You self, you don't love yourself. Is it not in Igbo land that they have the Osu caste system? Osu gang, like there are people that are considered slaves in Igbo land. Isn't it in Igbo land that those people that are from Ebonyi state are made to feel inferior? You know, they call them Wawa, even though Wawa is originally Enugu. No, if you do one thing, they go say you dey do like Abakaliki people in Emekande Abakaliki. In fact, there are people like in Anambra State, they would nearly never want to get married to people from Ebonyi State. It's na still for Anambra State we governor carry buses, pack anybody we from Ebonyi State, from wherever they could get you, put them inside the buses, drove them to Abakaliki and dumped them on the street. Or is that not Igbo on Igbo? It's still for Anambra State where one governor come change the name of a street, Abakaliki Street. It was like, why would they name this street Abakaliki Street in Anambra State? He changed the name. It was still in Igbo land that Sullivan Chime, governor of Enugu State, mocked Elechi. I think Elechi, governor of Ebonyi State, I've forgotten his other name, Martin Elechi, mocked him. He said, stop coming to my state to sleep. Go and sleep in your own state. I don't know if you understand. I am not saying Igbos are being tribalistic on themselves. I'm just using that to explain that there is no society that will not have these things happen. So whatever it is that you as an Igbo man is going through in Lagos particularly, it's not necessarily an attack on Igbos by Yoruba. It is just that in every society like ours, these things happen. But we should try to not let it get to a point where it will become systematic. It is when it becomes systematic that it becomes a problem. Is it systematic? No, because systematically, everybody who is not connected to politics, who is not connected to the political class, is marginalized. That marginalization doesn't recognize ethnicity. It recognizes the power balance. If you are not a relative to the president or state governor or house of whatever member, you will not enjoy what they call national cake. It is not about Igbo. Even if you went to civilized or more civilized societies like America, they still have tribalism. It comes in different colors. Like there is the one between black and white. There is even the American police on anything black, even if it were a black dog. I've seen photo where a black dog saw a white police officer and the dog froze, like the dog, I surrender, make the police officer no shoot them. So it has even gotten to the mind of a black dog that blacks are targeted by white cops. That's a civilized society. Apart from white on black, there is still what is called black on black in America. Black people going against themselves. There is Black American, there is African American. So the Black Americans are the Americans whose forefathers were taken as slaves from Africa, who have become Americans originally. Those ones see themselves as the real non-white Americans. They call themselves Black Americans. Then there is the African Americans. Those of us that would migrate from Africa in these contemporary times to America, maybe become citizens and stuff like that. You are considered less of a non-white American than the Black American whose ancestors were taken to America. I don't know if you get. So if your parents or grandparents were born in America as a black person, you are considered a black American. So you are more American than someone who migrated not too long ago to America. That one is called African American. So they are discriminated. Even the African Americans too would also want to discriminate the black Americans by saying you do not know your roots. Me self, I can say I am from Enugu State or I am from Cross River State. I know my father's house. But you, your ancestors were taken years ago, and so you do not know your roots. So all these discriminations will always be there. But it's not enough for you to just single out a particular group and say they do not like you. If you ask an Igbo person right now, what are the things that the Yoruba do that make you think they don't like you? You could just see that the things they will say will not really hold waters. It's just discrimination that exists everywhere in the world. It's not more than that. So, but the way the Igbos are taking it, they are making it to look like a systematized something. You cannot cry about Tinubu not giving appointments or whatever to the Igbos. Tinubu gives appointments to his friends. He doesn't seem to have family, so he gives appointments to his friends. How many of the Igbo friends does Tinubu have? So you cannot take what an individual or a few individuals do to represent the whole Yoruba land. Yoruba nation is a very big one. Okay, there are people that are in the comment boxes here. Igbo people, I have real life experience. My Yoruba friends coming out for me during problems to fight off their brothers. That's an average Yoruba person. I've told you the story of Victor Onabanjo, who was leading the Biafran squad into the Yoruba land. An Igbo person will never do that. That's just the truth. So those of you that have been saying Yoruba do this, Yoruba do that, I have come out, so I want to hear you. I've told you a bit of how supportive the Yorubas have been to Igbo, to the point of losing very influential leaders of theirs because of their support for Igbo. If you still have a different thinking, you could challenge what I have said and show me how the Igbos have tried to be supportive to the Yoruba. Just show me. I've mentioned very prominent examples how Yorubas have supported Igbos over time. Mention one or two that you know that the Igbos did to support Yoruba. If you had. I guess I'm done. Maybe I am waiting for the comment. So far, I have seen some of the people that have been saying, you know, Yoruba hate Igbo, Yoruba hate Igbo. I'm seeing some of you live here, but you are not telling me how Yoruba hate Igbo. But I have told you there are more. If I do more research, I will come up with a whole lot. How the Yoruba have always been there for the Igbo, even down to sacrificing their life. Note, I am not a Yoruba person. No. My name is Obinna. I am from Arochukwu in Abia State. But I am not going to lie because, no, I'm not going to join. There were people that were calling me intellectual when I announced that I was going to speak about this. All of you should come now or you want me to bring you on camera. I've not seen any of such indication. Or you want to put your comment in the comment box, put it and tell me how Yoruba hates Igbo. I will soon go off the live so that I will not keep very respected people waiting. But I guess I have made my point. Next time I will talk about the irony of secession. So we will understand if truly secession is the way forward. The same Ojukwu that took the life of 4 people, Yoruba, Kogi, Igbo inclusive, because they suggested to him to end the war to save lives. That same Ojukwu later ran away and abandoned the Igbo he was protecting. But if he had heeded to the calls by those people, he would have saved a lot of lives. But those people are actually the generals that saw tomorrow. Ojukwu is being touted as the general who saw tomorrow. He didn't see any tomorrow. Ojukwu's pattern was authoritarian, as in, if you are not doing it the way I'm doing it, you are not doing it right. So the same advice he turned down and went ahead to execute those people that advised him. That same advice haunted him because Biafra didn't have what it takes or what it would have taken to fight that war. And these people told you, guy, let us seek peace. You refused, you executed them, and later ran away because you didn't have what it would have taken to fight the war. You ran rather than surrendering and asking for peace. You left your soldiers, you left your people that were being killed and ran away, took your own immediate family and ran away, and people were being killed. It took Captain Philip Effiong, an Ibibio soldier fighting in the Biafran war. He was the second in command to Ojukwu. It took Philip Effiong to seek peace. We are not fighting again. And then Igbos were not even treated as losers. The federal government said no victor, no vanquish. A lot of Igbos don't even know what that means. I'm sorry. When your mind is framed to a certain direction, there is nothing that will make sense to you. No victor, no vanquish means this war will end. You no get anybody will win. You no get anybody will lose. We are all one. It is a very rare offer. Go and check wars around the world. The loser suffers. The loser suffers for life. But here was Nigeria saying you did not lose. We were only fighting to protect the integrity of the country. You did not lose. Let us all be one. They went ahead to start a reconstruction, rehabilitation, reconciliation program. They went ahead to give monies to Igbo war survivors, £20. Everybody come together, they share money, give you, war don't end, take this thing, go start life. Where is it done? To what else would they have done for the Igbo? Or since you wanted to have Biafra, they should just give Biafra to you. It doesn't happen anywhere. They gave you money to go and start life. But there are people who argue that there are people who had up to £100 and they gave them £20 in return. Who told you that? Well, okay, let's say there are people who had up to that amount. Do you know what £20 was? Do you know what £20 was? in those days. The value today runs in millions. It is that £20 that you used to come back to build all those nice, nice buildings in Igbo land because you went out to invest that £20. So, what if they didn't give you the £20? What would you have done? They had the option to not give it to you. After all, you'd lost, but they didn't treat you as losers. So instead of looking at the fact that you were giving, okay, what about the people that didn't have £1, but after the war they got £20? You are not looking at that direction. If they gave back monies according to how people had them, eh, the gap between the rich and the poor in Igbo land would have been extremely wide. Imagine if before the war I had £10 and then the other person had £100, and after the war they gave me £10, gave the other one 100. There are people that didn't have a pound, they wouldn't give them anything. How would those people have survived? So they gave £20 evenly across board so that everybody will start on an equal basis. So that because the war affected all of us equally. And those ones that were saying I had more than £20, what would have been your proof? Where the bank where you see everything were burnt down. So the Igbo have to understand first that, guy, we lost this war, but we weren't treated as much as victims. It is just the truth. Please stop your hate on Yoruba. Today it is a Yoruba president. If another person, maybe another person becomes president, you will quickly switch and say it is Hausa that don't love Igbo. We cannot continue doing this thing. We have to heal. A lot of people don't even know why Ojukwu fought the war. A lot of people don't know. The only reason was because of the killing in the north. That killing have stopped now. Even the life you were wanting to protect, you lost more going into that war. So where is the sense in it? Okay, now what happened for 1967? Now you still the struggle for today. Make una free Yoruba people, they no do na anything. I started talking about things that I wasn't going to talk about because I was waiting for someone that would come and counter whatever I said. But since there is no one, I will thank you all for joining in. We are going to continue the conversations in maybe the comment box or maybe on post or stuff like that. Thank you, all of you. You're very wonderful people. God bless you. Anyways, I'm going to change that name that I used to. I'll bring back the other name. You know the other name. Thank you. Kami Nelson Elemi, world's most beautiful woman. Thank you. Austin, she dey house abi. Nonso Odogwu, thank you. Onye Nkem, Nkechi nyere my nurse, well done. Timi Olushola, thank you. Obaino, thank you. Kalavenza, Eze, Ochman, Daalụ nwanne. It's all right. Thank you. Thank you all for joining in.